Welcome to Control Your Career. I'm Julia Toothaker, your strategic career consultant, and I'm so glad that you're here. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, what do you actually mean by control your career? It's a fair question because we don't control everything. We don't control layoffs, difficult managers, company reorganizations, so annoying, or the hiring market that is all over the place, especially right now. This is one of the earlier episodes in the podcast that I recorded about this idea, and it really gets to the heart of why the podcast is now called Control Your Career. We don't get to choose every circumstance, but we do get to choose what we do next. And that's really what this entire conversation of controlling your career is about. So let's talk about it. We're going to have an honest conversation about what it means to control your career and some of the barriers that you might encounter. So why this topic? Why this idea of controlling your career? I think for some people, it actually seems maybe a little bit aggressive, and it is meant to be that way. I want you to be able to control your career. And part of the reason is because for the majority of my professional career, outside of owning my business, my career was controlled by other people. You know, my parents had expectations of my career. Society has expectations of what it means to have a good career. And once I was in my career and I was doing what I really wanted to do, I always felt like my career trajectory was controlled by everyone else, usually somebody I reported to in most situations. And I got tired of that. And once I left and started my own business and I reflected back on my career, I realized how out of control my career actually was. And this was hard because I have traditionally been perceived as a strong person, someone who plans, who has opinions, who has a clear path. I think that's how people have seen me, especially at that time in my career. But honestly, underneath all of that, the majority of the decisions that I thought I was making, they were actually fueled by other influences and expectations that really weren't mine. And like I said, like owning my own business really opened my eyes to that because I had to deconstruct what had happened within my career and why I felt the way that I felt. And so that realization really fueled this process. It's really the basis of why I created this process. And I'm in a unique position because I have the fundamentals of career development. I know all the theories. I've also been coaching for over 10 years, but I have my experience intertwined with that. And I think that that's really what helps give me a different perspective for this particular process. It's a combination of what I know and my own experience. And honestly, my individual coaching experience and working with clients for over 10 years, all that information was put together to help create this process. And that's really where all of this came from. And I love it. I'm so excited. You'll notice if you follow me on social media, a lot of my content is centered around this process in some way, because I think it's so important to understand why we're doing what we're doing and where are we in the process and what are we trying to do. So as I mentioned before, the general career development process centers around the job search and kind of the career exploration process as well, versus looking at the entirety of your career. And especially when you get to a mid-career point, it becomes really hard to figure out who you are, where you're at, because you've been influenced by so many things. You've had so many different experiences that sometimes that traditional process doesn't work as well as we want it to. Now, the basic process encompasses a discover, explore, plan, act outline. And my process also has that, but there's more direction and more intentionality to help you really control your career with sustainable impact and habits. And that to me is one of the pieces that really sets it apart. We're really digging deeper than the normal process would suggest. And then we're looking at sustainability beyond, what if you quote unquote solve the thing that you're having an issue with
then what? What do we do beyond that? And so we look at custom strategy for that. And I'll go into that in just a second. One thing I want to be clear about too is where we get career theories from. And I'm not going to dive into the detail of it because for the majority of you, this would be very boring, but I'm happy to provide additional information if you'd like it. But when I was in grad school and then when I was learning, how to be a career coach and learning all the resources out there and everything, I realized very quickly that a lot of the theories and the processes that we follow, they've been around for a very long time. And if they've been around for a very long time, it means that the research that they're based on was done at a different time, likely done on men in the workplace, likely done on white men in the workplace in a time when the world of work looked very, very different. And as a career coach, that was one of the things that I noticed when I was learning all these processes and all these theories, because people don't fit into a box. And the world today and the influence of technology and all of these things that we go through, the world of work is so different now. Opportunity is so global and we have so many different paths we can take, but we also have so many different worldviews and experiences and just how the world has changed in the last, 50 to 60 years is insane. And when I created this process, a lot of what fueled it was wanting a process that spanned across multiple scenarios. It doesn't matter if you're a man, it doesn't matter if you're a woman, it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your ethnicity or where you are in the world. Like, I wanted a process that really could span across that. And that is what I created. So as we talk about controlling your career and career development in general, we have to look at where we're getting our theories. We have to look at where we're getting our information. And again, because I wanted something that would span across multiple scenarios, it's not just about the job search. And if you notice, if you've been following me for a long time, I don't focus on the job search a lot. I mean, I released a resume guide, and the only reason I released it is because I got asked about resumes so much. I don't focus on the job search process like a lot of career coaches do, because to me, that's manageable. That is an easy, manageable thing to do. And there are a lot of people that are out there doing it. I'm focusing on career transformation. I am focusing on digging into who you are and this process, controlling your career, controlling the trajectory. And a lot of times, once you have all that information, the job search process, if that's what you need, becomes very easy.
Thanks for listening. This idea of controlling your career has been near and dear to me for a really long time. And going back and listening to this episode reminded me that this is something that I have been consistently talking about. Even though the workplace has changed and AI has changed things a lot, hiring has shifted and changed to an extent, and I've changed. I've evolved as a career coach and a person. But this idea, it really hasn't. I still believe the goal isn't to control every single outcome. You can't do that. It's not possible. But you can be intentional about the decisions you make throughout your career instead of letting other people, circumstances, or expectations make them for you. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next time. And remember, you control your career.